Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chooseday. My name is Vicki Townsend, and I'm the founder of theCafeD. And I've created this space and this day to help you get through the process, whether you are thinking about it, whether you're in the middle of it, or whether you've long gone through the divorce process. It comes with its emotional baggage. The idea behind Choosedays is to help you choose a different life for yourself, a different way to show up, and a different destiny than what that divorce did. So here we are today, and this is our second Chooseday. So welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And we're only going to grow this when people like you that are here with us actually get involved and let some other people that may be struggling through the same choices as you did at one time, if you'll let them know about us, we would be so grateful. And we have a special offer for our membership. If you would like to have a special Q&A session with our special guest, Sonia Quertal, today, you can join us in our membership area. It's very simple, and it's just $7 to join us a month, and you can have access to all of our webinar experts, from speakers and authors and life coaches and psychologists to lawyers and accountants and marriage and family counselors and child psychologists, realtors, wealth advisors, and so much more. So imagine where you can go and go back there and have Q&A with those people anytime that we have one of these webinars going on. And also they're going to be perusing our private Facebook group, answering your questions. So you'll be able to continue to get some of your questions answered while you're back there. So without hesitation, I want to introduce our expert today. Her name is Sonia Queralt, and Sonia was with us last week on our Divorce RX. Why is that? Because Divorce RX is all of our divorce industry experts that are involved in the actual process of divorce. And the reason that she's here today is that Sonia Queralt is not only a former divorce attorney turned divorce coach, but she also has her degree in psychology. So the reason that she's here today is to help you understand that when we walk into this process, a lot of us carry some baggage, or we create baggage, we create anger and hate and bitterness throughout the process that stops us from moving forward. It certainly slows down the divorce process if that's your goal. If it's not, it might be something that we need to address by looking at ourselves and how we show up, how we choose to go through this process, right? So we are going to be talking about the mistakes that people make as they walk into a divorce attorney's office with the baggage that they come in with, as well as how to fix all of that so that you can get through the process with ease and grace. So with that, without another word, I'm going to introduce you to Sonia Queralt. She is a former divorce attorney from the great state of Massachusetts, from the wonderful city of Boston, and she is an amazing divorce attorney that just kind of, I think, got just a little tired, right, Sonia, of the actual process, and decided that she really wanted to help people through the process as opposed to helping them actually get divorced. So let me tell you a little bit about her. She was admitted to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Bar as well as the Federal District Court of Massachusetts. She is a member of the Women's Bar Association, the Boston Bar Association, the American Bar Association, and the National Association of Women Judges. She is an amazing woman. She was, prior to attending Northeastern University School of Law, she worked for the National Association of Women Judges in Washington, D.C., and the Family Law Unit at My Sister's Place, a nonprofit domestic violence agency in New York. She is a graduate of American University in Washington, D.C., where she received a BA in Justice and Law with a specialization in psychology. So now you guys understand why I brought her on to our second Tuesday. So welcome, Sonia. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much. You sound so good.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, Sonia, was not what it's like to go through the process, because that in itself, that's another conversation. The actual process of divorce and getting through that is one thing. You and I are going to be talking today about the emotional stuff that gets in the way, that people do, and the mistakes that they make that cost them time, cost them a lot of money, but most importantly, it costs them their sanity, right?
That's right.
That's right. So what would you say are, let's get the top 3 mistakes that people make as they're walking into your office on the emotional level that keeps them from peace and ease and grace through this process?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest mistakes is just, and you hear this all the time when you go through something traumatic in your life, but one of the biggest mistakes is really getting emotionally, making big decisions when you're angry and emotional. One of the problems with that is that you really, and we all know divorce is emotional, so it's very hard to separate the two. And I'm not asking you to do that. I'm not asking any of our viewers to do that because it's really impossible. However, there is a sense of goals and priorities that you have to have. And I ask my clients all the time, what are your 2 top non-negotiables? What are your priorities? Start with the end in mind so that you can work towards that, and it lessens that anger and emotion and reaction. Because we all know that if you just react in a divorce process, that can cost you more time, more money, and it's definitely costing you your sanity. So really, to just sit down for a second and think, what are my big goals in going through this process? Is it getting part of your spouse's pension because you need money? Is it a financial thing? Is it something with your children? So there are all of these different factors that play into it, but I think it's really important to prioritize, set those goals, express that to your attorney so that you're both on the same path working towards achieving those goals for yourself. And that'll just take away those really tough moments when things are emotionally draining, when you get very angry at something your spouse has said or done, because you have an end in mind. You don't feel stuck in this process forever. There's an end goal in mind, and that psychologically does wonders. It really helps us in working towards those goals.
So when you work with the end goal in mind, so you say at the end of the day, we want happy children and we want financial security.
Right.
If we can both work towards those goals, it takes the sting out and all of that, at least in part. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. Yes. I think it does. Because then your focus is not on reacting to what's just happened to you, because a lot is going to happen daily. And it's not just in your lawyer's office, it's your life. It's the divorce you're going through. There are some people that go through the process of divorce and they're still living in the same household. So there are things that continuously are happening. And I think that it's in us to just react to that because it's so emotional, because you're hurt, because you're going through a completely new experience and foreign experience. So if your goal is happy children, well then throughout the process we have to get you to co-parent with your spouse in order to achieve happy children. And then it doesn't become about you and your emotions and your pain. It's about your children. And having that focus really, I have found, has helped a lot of my clients get through certain moments that are extremely difficult, that can really suck you down a dark hole. Because we all know going through something that's this hard, it's very easy to get wrapped up in that rabbit hole, and it can be very dark. And you can spend a lot of time climbing out of it, when if you're just able to take a step back and say, okay, this was a hard moment, but I'm still working towards that goal, whatever it may be. And your goals may change as the divorce process continues, and as you start to sort of embrace where you are, your goals may change, and that's okay. but you're working towards those goals. So you feel less stuck in this situation forever. Because sometimes the pain is so deep and there's so much going on that you sort of think to yourself, am I ever going to get out of this? This is forever. I'm stuck in it. And you're not. You're not.
So what advice would you give to somebody that walks in and their goal is revenge, their goal is I want to take him or her for everything they've got, where it's, that dark and angry and bitter space. How do you take them, or is there a way that they can take themselves out of that space so that negotiations can begin, so that you can get to the end whole?
Sure. So I think it's twofold. Number one, I always tell my clients, nobody wins in a divorce. There's no such thing as I'm going to take him for all he's worth. I'm going to take the children completely away from her when somebody has been a good parent. Nobody wins. Everybody's going to sacrifice things in divorce, so we all lose something. It's just a matter of negotiating things that are on the table as opposed to your non-negotiables. I also think part of the revenge and the getting back at somebody, which is so natural and so understandable, it's going to feel good right now, but it's not going to feel good tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, getting revenge on somebody right now and thinking, I'm going to take everything away from them, first of all, is you're not working towards whatever your goal is. That it's just not working towards that. So it's really for yourself. You're not doing yourself a favor. I understand that, and a lot of times what I'll tell my clients, I'll say to them, you know what? Let's talk about what that revenge would look like for the next 5 minutes. Get it out. Talk about it. Because I think that as attorneys and as people when you're going through the divorce process with somebody, sometimes you just need to listen, and people need to feel heard. And that is so powerful. So there is a safe space that I always create for my clients to talk to me. Let it out. Scream, yell, do whatever you're feeling at that moment. But then let's take a step back and let's look at your goals. Because at the end of the day, getting revenge on your spouse or not, that's not what I'm advocating for. I want you to come out of this divorce process as whole as possible. That's what I'm working towards. So once we get back on track, then we can move towards it. And it's really hard. It's very hard. But that's why sort of working towards those goals is really important in these dark moments, in these emotional moments, in the moments that you want to get revenge. The best revenge you can get on your spouse is getting through this whole. Happy.
Oh, that's amazing. That was absolutely, you know what, it's funny, on one of our posts today on the theCafeD Facebook page, somebody is absolutely talking about how revenge is leading a great life, a better life after the marriage. And that's really true. That's really where it comes from. And we can't live a better life afterwards if we have all of this anger and hate and bitterness. I have a question for you. How do you, I know that in your business, and not just you, and you're amazing because you have a degree in psychology, so you have an extra layer of caring and understanding that a lot, dare I say most lawyers just don't have.
Right.
And that is the capacity for empathy and to listen and things like that. But it's also a very expensive thing for somebody to do when they go into their divorce attorney's office, and the divorce attorney also becomes their therapist and their counselor. How do you go from, and I understand because I did it. When I walked into my divorce attorney's office, I wanted to just kind of vomit all of this stuff out and just like tell him what a horrible person my ex was and what all of these horrible things was, and I took kind of joy in that in some sort of weird way. And the truth of the matter is that it doesn't serve any of us. And it didn't serve me, certainly. But from a financial perspective, it was a very expensive time with my attorney at $400 an hour. So
Right.
how do we walk the line of using our attorneys as a therapist versus not?
So I think that it's so hard, and especially because as an attorney, you're going through the process with this person, and it's very intimate. So you develop that relationship. I think it's twofold. Number one, like I said, with my clients, I'd give them a window. I'd literally start a little stopwatch, and I'd say, hey, we've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes of you telling me whatever you need to get off your chest, whatever emotional baggage is really holding you down in that moment. And then I think the second part of it is, and I have been going to therapy for many years. I love therapy, whether you need a life coach in sort of to come into your life, whatever you need. I always tell my clients, your lawyer cannot be your only support system. It cannot. It will be very expensive for you, and also that's not my job. That's not my job. It's my job to get you through this process, and for me, because of the psychology degree and because I do have a level of empathy for my clients, and I realize all of the complicated layers to divorce, for me, it's always, I sit down with my clients. I have a network from social workers to therapists to clergy that I work with, and I will absolutely tell my clients, get yourself a support system, a safe space where you have a support group around you, whatever that looks like. If it is your best friend from 20 years that you can call on all the time, but really to set yourself up for success, you need more support than just your attorney. And I'm happy to always help my clients get in contact and get surrounded by a team of support, but I think that's really important. So that is definitely something that I let them know right away. Get yourself some support. This is going to be an emotional process. It's going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be a ton of ups and downs, and having me is good, but having a support team around you is even better.
Oh, I would agree with that. So how, Sonia, would you say, we also talked about some of the mistakes that people make when they walk in from an emotional standpoint, is that they want what their friend had. Let's say that that their best friend ended up getting everything.
Right.
And so they walk into an office emotionally charged. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to get. That's the divorce that I want. So tell me how they walk through from an emotional perspective where they can get out of that. How do they understand that that's not the way each divorce is individual? So how do you deal with that?
Right. My clients, I tell them all the time, don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare your situation to others, because even as attorneys, we know you could have two cases, same facts, and they can still come out completely different. So I always tell that to my clients, just to put it into perspective, that there's so many factors involved in why your friend or whomever got the decisions that they got in their divorce. It could be the judge, different laws. Laws are changing all the time. So there's so many factors involved in that. So I think a big part of our job as a divorce attorney is to educate people about the process, because the more you know, the better, the more empowered you feel, which also helps you emotionally. So that is something I tell everybody. Don't compare your situation to anybody else's, because there's so much we don't know about that. There's so much we don't know about that other person's situation. And I think when people really hear that, and then I follow it up with, and your friend, your whomever, however that situation worked out, you have no idea what their goals were. Maybe you guys have totally different goals on how to get through this. And I think that's something that's really, really important. And so for people to understand that there's a lot of factors that come into play. And we all know that what you see in a marriage is a lot different than what's going on behind closed doors. It's the same thing in a divorce. What you're seeing is only part of the story. What you're hearing from your friend is only part of the story. There's so much of it that we just don't know. Maybe the judge, that day had a great breakfast, so he was feeling a little bit more, came down with the decision that he wouldn't do the next day, or she, because we do have female judges and a ton of them, so he or she, in a decision under the same facts, same circumstances, and the next day, a different decision is rendered, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I really think it's important for people to just have peace in that this is your situation. This is your individual process, and you need to get through that, and you can't compare yourself to others. And I think that on an emotional level, that is also really helpful, because we've all heard it before. You go through something really hard in your life and somebody will say a few weeks later, you're still crying about this? You're still upset about this? Well, you know what your answer is? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because this is my process, and right now I feel sad about that, and that's okay. That's okay. And you start to take back the process. You start to manage it. You start to empower yourself through it. And so I think it works on both levels that are just so important to get through this process as whole as possible and sane.
Yes, sane is important, isn't it? So right. If there was, and we've got a few minutes left, sure. If there was a few tips that you could give people so that they are, so let's do one. Let's do 3 tips. One, to people thinking about it. What's the emotional tip that you could give to them during the process? And then for those, and we have a lot of this, people emotionally carrying so much baggage after the fact. How can you give some advice on that psychological level of the actual process itself? Because so many people are struggling with the aftermath too. So what would be somebody that's thinking about it? How can they prepare themselves emotionally for what they're about to experience?
I like to do this. I like to do this with my clients all the time. The divorce process is like an accordion. There's going to be a lot of action happening right before a court date, right before attorney meetings, right before when you have a big event in a divorce, there's going to be a flurry of action right around it. And then there's going to be a lull. And no news is good news. That is part of the process. There will be a flurry of action. There will be a lull. There's no such thing as a quick divorce. I know many of us wish there was. There's no such thing. So really understanding the process that you're getting involved in and how it tends to ebb and flow, which is unfortunately why going through the divorce process is so emotionally taxing. 1 minute you're up because there's a bunch of stuff going on. Suddenly, you don't hear from your attorney, there's nothing going on, and that's just part of the process. No news is good news, and I always tell my clients, remember the accordion effect. That's what it is. There's going to be a flurry, there's going to be a lull. There's going to be a flurry, there's going to be a lull. And that's just something that I have found clients, when they sort of understand that, their anxiety lessens during those lulls. They're not picking up the phone to call me every day to figure out what's going on, because they trust me. They know this is part of the process, and they trust that when there is news, you will be the first person I call. Always. So I think that's important for somebody walking into the process to understand.
Okay, so how about during the process? What is one piece of advice that you can give someone going through it that's like literally in the middle of it, with the tornado of emotions that come along with it? What is the best advice you can give him or her so that they keep their wits about them, so that, and the reason that I say that is because one of those people that just kind of climbed under a rock. I lived in denial. I lived in sadness, and actually doing the work to get through it was actually emotionally painful for me because I wasn't there. I really wasn't emotionally in that place where dealing with it was not a friendly place for me. Dealing with it brought about even more sadness. So what ended up happening was that because of that emotion, I dragged my feet, and it cost me time, it cost me money, and it cost me my sanity. So what could you teach our listeners as to what they can do so that they don't do what I did?
Absolutely. I think the first one, again, I'm going to go back to just really owning the fact that this is your individual process. It cannot be compared to anybody else's, and it's yours. And you're going to go through it based on sort of the baggage you carry with you, who you are as a person. You're going to go through it differently than your neighbor will, than anybody else you know. So really internalizing that this is your process. And then what I like to tell my clients is, allow yourself to live moment to moment. There's so much in divorce where we're trying to sort of speculate where things are going to go. And a lot of things are part of the process that we cannot control, we can only manage. And sometimes we have no idea where things are going to go because it may shift and change as we discover things throughout the process. So allow yourself to live moment to moment. If there's a moment that I'm speaking with a client and I can tell that that day they're having a hard day, they're in a bad place, you know what? Like I always tell them, let's talk tomorrow. If you feel better tomorrow, let's talk tomorrow. Really allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling in the moment and living moment to moment. You don't have to make big decisions right away. Very rarely in a divorce is there a big decision that you need to make by 5 o'clock because it's going to affect the rest of your life. It's not going to happen. And so I think that there's a level of leeway, and sometimes attorneys sort of push for somebody to make a decision quickly, and you may not just be able to, and that's okay. So allow yourself to live moment to moment. And then my final one would be surround yourself with support, whoever that is. Some people have had bad experience with therapists. They don't believe in therapy. That's okay. Maybe you have a best friend, a clergy, a mentor, someone that you trust that is your safe space. And you know, like I tell my clients, you know they have your back no matter what. Because that's what you need to feel. That safe space that's non-judgmental that you can turn to at any time. So those would be the 3. I know I said 1 and I gave 3.
That's awesome. So, and then lastly, we have a lot of people in the CafeD community that have long been over divorce from the time that the order was signed and the decree was put in place, but who carry the baggage of that process and with them. Is there some words of advice that you have for them that would help them let go of that process so that they can then move forward? And then I want to talk about what we've got coming up for our listeners. So go ahead and let's talk right now about those that are long past the process, what they should do and can do for themselves.
I think one of the biggest things is I think that you have to view a divorce as the end of a chapter and not the end of your life. And I know that's so hard and it's so loaded and there's so many layers to it. But just sometimes you have to fake it till you make it a little bit. And at that time, remind yourself, it's the end of a chapter. You're being given the opportunity at whatever age to live again. To live again. And you have to, that's so powerful when you just think of that it's, you know what, you can look back and it was a really tough road, but look at where you are, look at how far you've come, and give yourself a pat on the back. You've done it. You've survived it somehow, some way. So you're so much stronger than you think you are. And I just think that I like to say that to all my clients. It's the end of a chapter. And now life starts again. And it's going to be different. And we don't know if it's going to be better or worse because we don't know. But it's going to be different, and it's going to be yours. It's going to be your life. And I think that's just a powerful way to look at it, because it's hard, and divorce is so taxing on so many levels, and the money, the financial issues, and the custodial issues, and there's so much that goes on in a divorce. But if you look at it as, hey, this is that chapter, I've closed it. I'm able to just close it and move forward, taking that one step forward and realizing that you have the rest of your life. You have the rest of your life. It's happening. It's happening. And it's either going to pass you by, or you're able to just embrace it and move forward. And you don't have to, carrying sort of that emotional burden of resentment, regret, and anger is so heavy for the soul. It's so heavy for the heart. And it's so heavy for you, and it really keeps you stuck in that place. You're not able to take any step in any direction because you're stuck in the same emotions that you've gone through. But you're not there. You're not that person that you were in the beginning of the divorce. You've survived it. Somehow, barely, that's okay, but you've survived it. And you have to really embrace that for yourself and really be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself. Learn to love yourself again. That is so important. Be proud of yourself. Be kind to yourself. I tell my clients sort of before we hang up on the phone or after a meeting, I tell them all the time, be kind to yourself today. Do something for yourself that is just for you, that makes you feel good, but be kind to yourself. You've dealt with so much harshness and raw emotion and terrible things. Don't be your own worst enemy. Now's the time to be your best friend, because you've done it. And so to really be kind to yourself. I think that's sort of, in a nutshell, that's what I would say to somebody who's gone through it and is still really stuck in that anger and resentment and just heavy burden. Let it go. Once you start to let that go, even a little bit, it's not going to happen all at once. It's all going to be a process. But if you start to do that, you'll feel lighter. And that in itself sort of just makes it so that you think, hey, maybe this does work a little bit. Like maybe this is, and you can move forward because you have the rest of your life, regardless of how many years or the rest of your life.
Well, and that's so true. And that's the one thing that if you can look at anything in your life and see that, time moves so quickly, right? And the truth of the matter is that I look at my son. My son is now 20, and that's how long it has been since he was a baby. It went that fast. Yeah. And time and life has gone by. And if I didn't breathe it all in, I look back and I go, wow, what happened? Yeah. And that's what happens to the people that hold on and live in that part of that anger and bitterness. They miss life. They miss the next chapter, don't they?
They do.
Right? And so that is what we want to help those that are going through it is start that next chapter, right? So I'm going to share. Can I share what we've got planned for them coming up this summer?
Yeah.
This is going to be really exciting for the members of the CafeD community. We are so excited. We don't have the particulars yet, but we're getting close. We're going to be probably figuring this out in the next couple of weeks. But Sonja and I are going to be creating a Confessions of a Former Divorce Attorney divorce coaching group program that will be so financially doable for you as you go through it. It will help you before, during, and after your divorce. It will actually be from the actual divorce attorney's mouth on how to actually negotiate a very complicated system. So we're going to be doing that in a group format. So we're going to have to we're still trying to figure out all the particulars, but we're going to start it this summer. That's for darn sure. It will be once a month online group coaching call where Sonia will work with you and help you through this process. So we look forward to sending you all details about that. But right now, if you are a member of the CafeD community, you can join us on our private Facebook page right now for some Q&A with Sonia, and I will be there as well. If you have some questions, if you want to join, you can go to our website at theCafeD.com and click on the members area and join. It'll just take you a minute or two to do that. Simply $7 a month, and you're going to hear from Sonia and about 7 other experts each month that will make this process, both emotionally and the actual process of it itself, an easier process to get through. And we want to be there. We want to hold your hand. We want to help you. And if you need some of those mentors, or if you need some of that support system that Sonia was talking about a few minutes ago, we want to be that for you if you don't have that system set up in place. So that's what we're creating here, is we're creating a community. So right now, go back to our members area. Join us on our private Facebook group where you can ask questions to Sonia all for the next half hour. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
I'm looking forward to seeing you on our Facebook page, so we will see everybody over there, and I look forward to, on Thursday, we have another amazing webinar coming up. Let me tell you who we've got coming up in just 2 days on Divorce RX, coming up on June 25th next Thursday. We are having Lena Acosta-Sandel from the Nest Miami talking about young children and divorce and getting it right. Tips to making sure that you are raising your children in a divorced home the right way. So join us on Thursday. So go ahead and register for that as well. I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.